There are moments in life when the smallest act of kindness becomes the defining feature of your character. There are moments when you see someone's humanity stripped away by the careless cruelty of others, and you're faced with a choice that will echo through eternity. This is the story of one such moment, and the man who chose to see what others refused to see. Marcus had been pushing his mop through the gleaming corridors of Zenith Industries for 7 years. 7 years of early mornings that began at 4 a.m. before the sun kissed the glass towers of the downtown district. 7 years of watching executives stride past him without a glance, their designer shoes clicking against floors he'd just polished to a mirror shine. He knew every corner of this, building better than the people who worked here. He knew where the elevator stuck on the 3rd floor, where the fluorescent light in the break room flickered on odd-numbered Tuesdays, where tears had been shed in bathroom, stalls by employees facing their own invisible battles. But no one knew Marcus. Not really. He was the ghost that moved through their days, present yet unseen, like furniture you stopped noticing after a while. The annual shareholders meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. on a Tuesday in late September. The conference room on the 45th floor had been decorated with ice, sculptures, and fresh flowers, arranged in configurations that seemed designed to whisper success to everyone who entered. Marcus had cleaned that room meticulously that morning, making sure every surface gleamed with purpose. He arrived at 1:30 p.m. to do a final check, carrying his supplies in an old, dented bucket that had traveled with him through all 7 years. That's when he saw them gathering, the executives, the board members, the golden people who represented everything Zenith Industries valued in human ambition and achievement. They were clustered near the windows, phones in hand, speaking in that particular tone of dismissal that money often cultivates. Their laughter floated through the room like expensive cologne. Marcus had started to leave when he heard his name, or rather, he heard someone using the word janitor in a way that made his stomach clench. He paused, mop in hand, listening. "Did you see him trying to clean those windows yesterday?" It was Harrison Webb, the VP of Operations, a man. Marcus had watched charm clients and crush competitors with equal enthusiasm. He was scrubbing away like he actually believed he could make those windows perfect. As if that matters. As if anything he does matters. I mean, look at him. Harrison gestured vaguely in Marcus's direction, though Marcus had already positioned himself partially behind a pillar. Some people are just meant to clean up after the rest of us. It's like they lack the basic cognitive capacity for anything else. The others laughed. Some laughed harder than others. "I've always thought janitors were proof that society needs all types." Someone else said it was Rebecca Chen from marketing, but her voice carried a patronizing lilt, as if she'd just compared Marcus to a toll collector or a sewage worker, someone necessary but fundamentally beneath consideration. A younger woman, fresh out of college, sat quietly. She looked uncomfortable, her fingers fidgeting with the strap of her designer bag, but she didn't speak up. The cost of speaking up was too high in rooms like this. Marcus felt something die inside him in that moment, not something vital. He'd long ago made peace with being invisible. What died was a small hope, a fragile belief that maybe people could be better than this, that maybe his presence in this building meant something beyond the absence of dirt. He finished his job in silence and left without being noticed. He never was. The meeting began at 2 p.m. sharp. The shareholders filed in, the board members took their seats, and Thomas Riley, the CEO, entered last. Thomas had been with Zenith for 32 years, working his way up from entry-level sales. He was a man in his 60s with silver hair and an unexpected gentleness in his eyes for someone who'd spent 3 decades in cutthroat corporate warfare. He took his position at the head of the mahogany table and opened his mouth to begin the proceedings. But he stopped. He just stopped. His gaze had landed on something, and his entire body seemed to shift. He was looking at one of the ice sculptures, the magnificent centerpiece that Marcus had positioned perfectly that morning, and written on the card beside it in neat handwriting were the words, "Thomas Riley, in appreciation for your kindness, M." There was absolute silence. People exchanged confused glances. Thomas picked up the card and his eyes began to water. "Marcus," he said aloud, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "Marcus cleaned this room today. Marcus cleans this entire building. I want to tell you all about Marcus. What followed was a story most of the shareholders didn't know. Thomas explained how, 15 months ago, his wife had experienced a severe stroke. She'd spent weeks in rehabilitation, unable to speak clearly or move her right side. Thomas was devastated, drowning in fear and guilt, and the terrifying helplessness of watching the person you love dissolve into a shadow of themselves. During those dark weeks, it was Marcus who found him crying in the stairwell late one evening. Marcus, who sat with him for 40 minutes without saying much of anything, just being present. Marcus, who began quietly and without being asked, to make sure Thomas's office was perfect each day, not just clean, but arranged with intention. He'd place fresh flowers on the desk. He'd ensure that the blinds were set to let in exactly the right amount of morning light. Marcus never mentioned it, never asked for anything in return. He was simply there, a small anchor of consistent care in an ocean of chaos. "My wife recovered," Thomas said, his voice breaking slightly. "Not completely, but she recovered. And I credit that not to medicine or therapy alone, but to something that happened in me during those weeks. I stopped taking things for granted. I stopped assuming that the world revolved around my achievements and my title. And Marcus helped me find that perspective." Thomas looked directly at Harrison. "Webb, you were speaking about one of my employees this afternoon, I believe, questioning his value, suggesting that some people are simply meant to be beneath us." Thomas stood up from his chair. "I want to be crystal clear about something. I am where I am today because Marcus reminds me every single day what it means to be human. His work isn't beneath me. His character is above me." He turned to address the room. "We are a company that generates billions in revenue. We have created products that millions of people use and benefit from. But if we forget that, every single person who works here, from the entry-level employee to me, has dignity and value, and a story worth listening to, then we've failed at the most basic human level. We've become a company that makes money from a building that's clean because someone cares about it, while we mock that person in conference rooms." Thomas walked to the door and opened it. He gestured for someone. After a moment, Marcus appeared in the doorway, confused and uncertain. Thomas placed his arm around Marcus's shoulders. "I want to introduce you all to Marcus Thompson, the man who makes this company function every single day. Not the computers, not the marketing strategies. Marcus. Because a building is only an expression of the people in it. And those people are only capable of their best work if they know they're valued." The room was silent in a way that made the previous laughter seem obscene in retrospect. "Effective immediately," Thomas continued. "We are establishing the Marcus Thompson Foundation at Zenith Industries. Its purpose is to provide educational, scholarships and mental health, resources to our staff and their families. And Marcus, I'd like you to lead it full-time at a salary that reflects what your contributions are actually worth." Marcus's hand flew to his mouth. His shoulders began to shake. What happened next rippled through Zenith Industries like a stone dropped in still water. Employees who'd previously walked past, Marcus, without acknowledgement, began stopping to talk to him, to actually see him. The company culture began to shift imperceptibly but noticeably, moving toward a place where people were treated as humans first and functions second. But perhaps most importantly, Marcus went home that evening and called his daughter, who was attending community college while working 2 jobs. He told her that he'd received a promotion. He told her that he'd been seen, finally and truly seen, not as a role but as a person. He told her that she could stop working those 2 jobs and focus on her studies. On the phone, Marcus cried. And when his daughter asked why, he couldn't quite explain it. How do you explain that sometimes? The smallest act of witnessing another person's pain, of choosing kindness when cruelty was easier, can change the trajectory of your entire life? How do you explain that the world is still capable of being better, even when you've stopped believing it could be? The ice sculpture melted by the end of the day, as all temporary things do. But the moment it represented, the decision Thomas made to stand up and speak Marcus's name, that didn't melt. That remained solid and permanent. A reminder that we are all just one moment away from changing everything. All it takes is the choice to see someone, truly see them, and to say their name like it matters. Because it does. It always does.